Anyone that's been taking a look at my Twitter, you may have noticed that I put up a post on the 1st of April, kind of very late in the day, about an OTT loop. That was kind of a joke, an April Fool's joke. Very late one. Maybe in some people's time zones it wasn't really April Fool's anymore. But after I made that post, I kind of realized, hold on a second, I actually have thought about an infinite loop the other day. What am I talking about? So I guess it's time to actually turn the April Fool's joke into a reality. Well, the first thing is, I did say thanks Keter on that post, and that still stays true because there is the overtrigger that came out in the stream the other day, and I know a handful of people have noticed the combo from a while back actually with Wakahime, where if you used it with Wakahime you can always guarantee 100 million power, and of course having the new effect now guaranteed to go off with this card makes it a bit more interesting. The best cards I would say to use with this would be Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu and Circle Magus. The reason why you would play Circle Magus is because she has a skill which involves every time you drive check a grade 2 or greater, you may put that card on the bottom of your deck to draw a card. That's sort of there just as a bit of extra security. This isn't exactly a loop, definition of the loop, but it's about as much a loop as, say, Valkyrian or Fenrir. So, Fenrir in terms of the Taro multi-attacks, not in terms of Kazande. Kazande with Gelja, that's a proper loop with Taro. That's an actual loop, you can do that infinitely. This, on the other hand, this is obviously until you run out of stands, because stand trigger is going to play a massive role in this. Goddess of the Sun skill, Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu, what that does is, basically when it attacks, discard a card from your hand, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 normal unit from among them, and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the top of your deck in any order. So basically, after you attack with Wakahime and you drive check and overtrigger, you then have a 100 million plus powered Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu, who also has twin drive because of the effects of the trigger. So what you do is you check 3 cards up to your deck. So essentially you always know what you're drive checking into. What you're then going to be doing is using Goddess of the Sun's skill to check the top 3, to try and make sure you stack that stand trigger on top. You filter through any of the cards that aren't stand triggers, and find, you still have 2 normal units, maybe. Then what you can do is, if you have Circle Magus on your field, bear in mind, only works on grade 2s or greaters, so if you have grade 1s, it's not going to work there. But if you reveal the grade 2 or greater, just put the grade 2 or greater as your first card for your drive check, basically. You put that there, you drive check it, you reveal it, then you get to draw it into your next card after putting the revealed card to the bottom of your deck. So that way you've now dug through 2 cards and you still got the other chance to drive check. Alternatively, if you play these 2 cards, Ichikishima, as well as more main decked Amaterasus, if you're able to reveal those with Goddess of the Sun's skill, you can then bind the next card, which then again helps you go through 2 cards, just like with Circle Magus. So these are just ways to try and increase your chances of hitting a stand from every attack to keep the consistency going. Just like how with Valkyrian, you try to get as many drive checks as you can, because with that then you can increase your chances of getting stands. You can also run this card if you wanted to, that's just an option, to try and thin your deck, so you can always just use it to get rid of some cards you don't want, normal units obviously, and then you're more likely to hit stand trigger from that. There are 3 ideal stand triggers you want to play, which would be Efficient Carp, Bell Ringing Maiden Ochre, and potentially even No. This is all going to be down to preference. You may think perhaps this is too many stand triggers to be playing. I would maybe lean towards Efficient Carp as the first choice, because that card helps you find stuff that you need. It's sort of like a Psychic Bird, but slightly better, although slower because it's an end phase skill. Maybe you might want to play a Psychic Bird. You could probably take out a No or something. But No is also very handy because it's GB1, so it's a bit more in the later game. You can return it to your deck, and then you get a great chance of getting a stand trigger. Obviously, it's not a loopable stand like Angel Feathers. You can set this up in your field somewhere, maybe here, end of battle, return it. Any of those sort of things, really. You draw your card. Another thing to note as well is that Bell Ringing Miko Ochre. This card requires an Oracle Vanguard. Wakahime is an Oracle. most of the strides we have had actually since maybe the Fighters Collection set that had Wakahira main in the first place before Trinity Dragon. I'd say every stride since then has been an Oracle, which is very handy because then you can activate this card, target your Goddess of Sun Amaterasu. You're basically turning it into a classic Silent Tom, so your opponent cannot guard with grade zeros in the hand, which is very useful because some people do play draw perfect guards. So, you know, obviously a critical trigger isn't really going to be that useful to guard against it because 100 million power. But at least now you're making it so that they need to have a grade 1 perfect guard. And then the other thing is with Efficient Carp, this card can be handy because you're basically going through 2 cards in your deck, and this is not even a GB1. So what you could do with this is you could, in the early game onwards, keep digging through your deck until you find your overtrigger. And speaking of searching for the overtrigger, these other 2 cards would be handy. You could play the Crescent Moon or the Half Moon Tsukiyomi, sort of as part of your engine. You know how every ride phase you basically just check the top 5 and then just add anything you want, unlike the old ride chain. Literally anything. So you can go through basically a total of 10 cards. You ideally maybe want to play Akizuki as well. That card lets you discard it so that you can ride Crescent Moon from your deck. That's a handy option to go for. So when you put all these things together, you kind of start to realize, hold on, this one-off over-trigger deck isn't actually too inconsistent. Sort of like how Zazen at 1 with Magical Kaliko isn't super inconsistent when you think about how there are ways to search for it. Like you can even play the Imperial Shrine Guard Nozuchi if you want to mulligan with that on your grade 1 ride. So really, you're just going to attack with Wakahira Mei, get you over trigger through her skill, and then attack with Goddess of Sun, discard a card. Then you set the top 3. Let's just say you see these 3, for example. You can now take one of these, maybe the Perfect Guard, add it to your hand, and then you add these to the top of your deck. And then, or you could even go with this order. And then when you do the drive check off of Amaterasu, you get your stand trigger, so you restand again. And you also get your grade 2. If you want to, you can use Circle Makers, but that's not the reason why we're using it. An alternative situation, you end up seeing these 3 cards. What you could do is you maybe add one of these to your hand, maybe the Perfect Guard, put these on top. Let's just say this is your next card further down. Then you've got Circle Magus, so use its skill. You put that to the bottom of your deck somewhere. Your next drive check, sorry, your next draw is going to be Crescent Moon. And then you've got your next drive check, the second drive, which is Ochre, so you can just restand this again and swing more. And then you've also got this scenario. You check the top 3. You end up with these cards. Maybe use Ichikishima. You bind one of these cards that you put on the top of your deck. So let's go with this, for example. And then you just end up having this in your hand. You drive check your Half Moon. And then your next trigger is a Carp. Yes, they are in different sleeves. That's because I'm using various different cards across a few different decks. And this isn't actually in any sort of proper deck list, by the way. It's only a demonstration video. Anyway, I hope that has been useful. Although it's meant to be a April Fool's joke, it ends up becoming a reality. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say sorry for getting people's hopes up, because I guess I delivered by accident. Anyway, hope that's been fun, and take care. Bye.